Terry Ader. Wow. All right, the meeting is now ordered. First order of business, we're going to you can quickly review the minutes if you haven't had a chance to look at them. Give us about a minute or two to read through them, and then we will vote to approve them. Oh, okay, awesome. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes? Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Not on the agenda, but Hadley and Perry are kind of putting together a fundraiser this week on Thursday. So could you say just a few words about that?
Yes, I'll say it more on Hadley's behalf because it's really her baby. But she just, I think, was very taken with this man she met in New York, who's been running this program called Change Summer. And they discussed the importance of children spending time away from home, for to give them that experience to help them feel ready to go away from home for college. And so last year, Laura spoke, and Josh came down. His last name's not Phillips. Thank you. They spoke, and it's just a small, kind of very casual cocktail party, fundraiser, whatever you want to call it. And I thought it was wonderful, and then you were able to spend 30, 40.
Yeah, we sent 30 students.
Right.
So we were really fortunate to have a gift from Melanie Westworth, who came to have 30 students go to camp for a period of 3 years. So they will have funding to go back. Any of that original cohort can go back for 2 additional years, which is super exciting. And then for the generosity of many people, including folks around this table, we will have money to be able to send an additional group of students this year. And we're hoping to raise more to have it still probably won't be 30 kids, but we're hoping to send another cohort this summer. And that will continue our effort to try and give more horizon project experiences to our students.
The gap we're trying to fill is between 15 to 27,000, so we can send a full cohort of 25 students in this same.
And I think we're all invited. So.
Yeah, so please, if you can, please come.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. It's in Northwest Washington, Palisades address at Hadley's house, and again, very casual. People kind of mingle a little bit, and then it was really just hearing from Josh, hearing from Laura, and I think those little gatherings can be good because also just to hear more about the school in general. Just some people who didn't know anything about Basic Prep, just to be introduced to the organization.
Can I add
Oh,
one?
yes.
Of course, this is not on the agenda, but I'm so excited because we were recruiting students this weekend. And so we were out in 3 different neighborhoods across the city, and one of the parents said, I heard my friend's daughter got to go to summer camp last year thanks to DC. It was a really nice connection in the aisle of Safeway.
That's great.
That many I'm sure that's sort of exciting things about DC practice.
Maybe that should be sending 30 kids every cohort through
it's an awesome opportunity to have this like initial seed funding because it's going to give us a chance to study like what's the impact. And I think what you're highlighting is we should think broadly about the impact. It's both the impact on the students who get to go, the way that they bring their learnings and sort of additional self-confidence and maturity back to the school, and then also the impact that it might have on like buzz and excitement about the work that we're doing.
Is it 90,000 a year? No, you had 3 goals. 30,000 per cohort.
Every student is around, it's 7,800 for every student.
Got a little inflation going now in the second year. Last year's like 300, now it's like but about 7 for 2 weeks.
I think it changes depending on, because Josh looks for university campuses within like a 2 to 3 hour driving distance of DC. But it always depends a little bit on whose facilities are available. So I don't know if he knows where it will be this summer. But I'm sure he does, but I don't know where it will be. But he has done this enough to, I have confidence that it will be at a university campus, but I'm not sure the time.
Awesome. So hopefully we'll see a lot of you Thursday night. So it's fun times last year. Then the next thing I wanted to talk about was just, I don't know if you guys saw Terry's op-ed piece that he sent around highlighting DC Prep. It was just amazing, and the importance of charter schools and stuff. So just wanted to thank you for that, Terry. That was an awesome piece. If you haven't seen it, check your emails. You should have it in there. Just click on the link and read it.
I was fortunate to get it's published in 2 different places, nationally and locally. But it was unfortunately not published in the Alliance newsletter because it part-time manages DC Prep and other CMOs have single-site charters. But a lot of schools have charters within that group. So, I'm just hoping that it's probably helping with the LSU Council to focus a little bit on student achievement, how to get that, how to close the make scores, or certainly with the people and I would hope our politicians will look at ways to narrow that gap. But we'll see.
Yeah, I also like the fact that you called out like how many, the percentage of kids that are in charter schools and public schools. It's essentially 50-50. So we should get the same resources that the public schools.
In 2004, there were 12% of all the public school students were charters.
Oh my gosh.
15 years later,
This is like when you get to church late. Church late, you have to sit up.
So 15 years later, in 2019, there were 48%. And 6 years later, in 2025, there were 48%. So we're not growing the number of charter students, but and there's certainly some issues with some of the smaller ones too. So yeah, it's a complex issue.
Okay, so I will turn it over to Hillary for Aspire Framework overview.
Wonderful. Hi, everybody. I saw you, I think the last time you gave an overview of the work we needed to do around the school-specific performance measures that are going to be in the Charter Board's new Aspire Framework, which is the accountability system that we're working on. I will spend a few minutes just kind of giving you a few refreshers on that, and then talk you through the work we have done in the last 2 months, sort of where we have landed, as we will be putting forth to the Collier School Board a proposal of what we're selection, and then undergo the negotiation process with them to hopefully sign off on it with the final decision. So for those of you who've been around for a long time, the Aspire system is replacing the performance management framework, the PMF, that was in place before COVID and then has been on a hiatus. The Charter Board has spent the last 2 to 3 years really developing a new system with really equity at the forefront of it, helping to bring to life schools that are doing well with diverse populations, particularly those that are underserved. And so within the Aspire framework, Many aspects are the same as what gets reported on the OSCE school report card, but they specifically focus on progress. So progress being the state on growth on the state assessment for students, progress on the NWBA assessment for our younger children who don't yet take the state assessment, and then other things like attendance score, so progress being that. Achievement as well, state assessment scores, what number of our students are getting to proficiency or higher on an annual basis. And then things like school environment, the classroom observations that happen in our early childhood classrooms on an annual basis, attendance data, re-enrollment data, all of that goes into environment. That makes up 90%, so the vast majority of our Aspire score. And the remaining 10% is what we're going to spend our time talking about today, which is the school-specific performance measure. We are fortunate in that we get to have some input into the things that we want to highlight that really showcase the strong work we're doing with our students. We had a very large pool of options to select from, but as we were sort of looking at those options, it came to light that many of them might not be good choices, either because the business rules operating around them were really stringent, it might be hard to fulfill on a regular basis. We did a deep dive the last few years of historical data to say, what do we think is a reliable measure for us, where we're going to see consistency year in, year out? Because we knew we wanted to select something that we were familiar with, that we've seen results on, we have a track record of success, because this does need to be in place for the next 5 years. So we're really committing to something for a relatively long amount of time, and we need to ensure it's stable so that we can have better performance. The Aspire framework is going to break up into 5 levels. So this, compared to the performance management framework we were under previously, where there were only 3 levels, does a little bit more differentiation of school performance. So our goal is to be in the level 1 or level 2, so exemplary or strong performance across all of our schools. And we want to make sure that when we select their school-specific performance measures, we are going to choose ones that will help us strive to be in level 1 or level 2, reliably, alongside all of that other data that contributes. So just a few quick reminders. It is 10% of our score, and we have to select 2 different measures. So those will each be 5%. We cannot just select one. Across all of our elementary schools, they will be the same 2. And then across all of our middle schools, they will be the same 2, which will help for obviously programmatic and intentionality as we implement what we do select. We will have to make a justification of alignment to our mission. So as we were looking back at historical data, we were thinking about which ones really do highlight the unique and strong work we do here with the population we serve. They will have to be very clearly defined. There will be business rules, exactly how the definition is, what thresholds we need to meet, how we earn points, and at what rate. So they do have to be quantitative, very easily and objectively measured things. And like I mentioned, 5 years of stability, and then we can reevaluate. So being very intentional. We are fortunate that our middle school performance across a whole variety of domains is very strong and very consistent. And so as we were looking at our middle school data, we had lots of good options to choose from. We want to do the ones that help show the highest performing features of our program, right? We really want to bring to light what differentiates us and what shows strong performance. And so there were several we considered, and the ones that I think we have come to propose. The first being Algebra 1 enrollment. So what percentage of our at-risk students are enrolled in Algebra 1 compared to our not at-risk students? So what is that gap for that population? We have taken the approach here of doing Algebra for All model. We increased the math rigor so that all of our 8th graders are able to be enrolled in the Algebra 1 course. And a differentiator amongst us that actually works well in this system is we actually have all of our 8th graders take the Algebra 1 statewide assessment. So there are lots of schools across the city that do enroll students into the Algebra 1 course, but don't actually push them to take the state assessment in Algebra. They just take the 8th grade math, and it's in many ways content they've already moved.
As far as we can tell, we're the only school where all students take the Algebra 1 campus.
And so that is definitely something that we are proud of. It is something that showcases the rigor of our program. And because it is looking at the difference in Algebra 1 enrollment or effectively Algebra 1 CAPE participation, it shows we are giving our at-risk students that same opportunity as the non-at-risk students. Because that is part of our philosophy and our approach, and we've been doing that for several years, giving our students the Algebra CAPE assessment, we would maximize the points on there because there is no gap. We believe that's going to continue to be a part of our long-term model, and so that is, in many ways, very obvious choice, and it requires no extra burden on our schools because they're already focused on it. There's no extra sort of data submission type of requirements.
It's also just like very deeply aligned with what we believe we need to be doing in order to make sure that students are competitively positioned to apply for and do well in competitive high schools. And so it feels very representative of the work that we're trying to do.
The second area we landed on was CAPE growth, particularly in our 6th through 8th grade levels. That is the culmination of our middle school program, but really it's the culmination of all the work we've been doing with students from the time they got with us many years later when they leave us in 8th grade. Both our ELA and math growth amongst 6th through 8th grade has been very stable and strong over the last several years. And so as we looked at the data, we decided there actually wasn't that much more security in going with ELA or math. But because Algebra 1 is a math focus at our culminated grade, looking at ELA content shows that we value the holistic, right, experience of students. It's not just math that's important. It's not just ELA that's important. Having strong skills in both, to Laura's point, helps them be prepared for those competitive high schools.
Can you remind us, when you measure growth, so is this saying taking all 8th graders and comparing them to where they were at 6th grade, or saying you're measuring every 6th grader versus your previous year 7th versus when they were 6th?
Great. So within the Aspire framework, there's 2 choices for growth, actually. One is growth to proficiency, which sets a trajectory for each student. And then there's a second growth measure, which is median growth percentile. This data is all reflective of median growth percentile. So what that is looking at each student's growth on an annual basis. So for our 6th graders, it would be their growth from 5th grade to 6th grade. For our 8th graders, it would be their growth from 7th grade last year to 8th grade this year, relative to their peers. So each child gets a percentile which they through. If you line them up from lowest to highest and cut them in the middle, take the median. Our median growth is always very strong, sort of exceeding the anticipation.
The question was partly like, you're not worried about becoming by 8th grade like a victim of your success. Like if you have high growth in 6th and 7th grade, is the bar really hard in 8th to continue to grow at a high rate?
No, because your growth percentile is for students who are of a relatively similar
Gotcha.
profile.
So you compare to other people who've already got that.
Yeah, who are kids.
Well, these 2 measures you use it all in marketing, or is this just for our relationship with the board, or could we use this to help recruit students in the summer campaign?
Yeah, so we believe the Aspire framework as a whole will be a positive student recruitment tool, right? If the charter board, which is an independent organization, has set this value proposition on these different metrics that every charter school across the city is compared to, if we can say they have independently scored us as an exemplary school or a strong school, we think that will have meaning to parents because they can compare. They can look at the school down the road and see that it's a low-performing school and we're a high-performing school. So we think it'll add that value. The granularity of something like median growth percentile is just not going to resonate with parents because it's so complicated. I do think algebra, Yeah, but I do think the Algebra 1 is a really great thing that we can push as part of our recruitment work, right? We are setting your children up to take advanced coursework. To Dan's point, we believe through the data we're the only school in the city universally having our Algebra 1 enrollment take the Algebra 1 assessment. We believe our kids can do it. We show that by having them take the state assessment, and they do well, right? And so to have students be successful on advanced coursework and equitably enrolled in it is, I think, compelling to families who are excited about the college prep aspect of it.
What about tying it more closely to our mission For example, one would be in the top third of all the trade scores. Something simple like that, notwithstanding that we would be made on a similar basis, the other 90%, but just to emphasize that that's what we're about.
Yeah, we definitely in our student recruitment efforts talk about the strong results we get on statewide assessments. We don't go so much, parents don't have to ask on like the grade level by grade level basis or even think about it on an annual basis. Some of our most engaged prospective families are in the data. They go in the school report card, they look, they really compare. But what we have sort of heard and seen over the years is our broad academic strength and reputation is a value add and something we should bring to light, both in conversations and in our more outward facing. But it's not the only thing that it sees the difference.
But if we have trouble understanding NGP, would be better for those people that really dive in to tie something that everybody can understand.
Terry, are you saying you want to tie the metric for the Spire to that?
Yes.
I think you have restrictions on what you can choose, right?
I think there's two different important priorities. One is how do we think about the accountability framework and how can we be really intentional about what are the things that we need to select that will drive our focus and create the right direction for all of us in terms of what we do every day. I think that needs to work in concert with, but is I think distinct from how do we market our results? Because what you're describing, like we want to be high performing, we want our students to be achieving at great levels. I think Hillary is trying to help us do the additional thought of how do we think about a very narrow slice of our work, which is like the accountability framework, which is meaningful and is also so narrow and specific that we need to both kind of think about that as a complement to the storytelling around what we do broadly.
So, I mean, if the 90% focus is on our mission and accomplishments academically, it's good. And I certainly, this algebra thing sounds like that's quantifiable, easy to understand. Hey, I want my kid to, it seems very straightforward. But with NGPELA, maybe it's like if it's going to be used by prospective parents to really analyze what it is. Like maybe, cut next, something related to something that nobody else has, and no other school has, but we know we're going to do that in the future. Maybe that would be a better.
Yeah, I appreciate that suggestion. We are sort of constrained by what the PCSB is willing to put on the table. And some of the options we had were reallocating the points that already exist in the framework, which is what we've done with, or are proposing to do with ELA growth. It's already in there. They've already got the parameter set for how they collect the data, what the rules are. Algebra 1, we stepped outside the box a little bit and said they had a manual effectively of like, here's some other options you might consider. And we sort of pivoted on one they proposed in there.
I love it.
Yeah, but the challenge that we found as we were having some other more detailed conversations with them is it has to be really quantifiable, really defined, and provable. And so we were talking at one point, I think came out of one of the maybe something Patrick had suggested, considering quality college prep high school enrollment, right? And in conversations with them, we would have had to provide like a letter of enrollment, not just an offer of admission. It would have created all these data tracking burdens. And then we would have had to define like what's a college prep high school. We can loosely define that here for our marketing efforts, but like they told us, if you give us a list and then your kid gets into elite prep school in Maine that you've never sent anyone to, they're not going to count. And so it became this risk that was just like not worth it.
Thank you.
I have a question just on the CAPE. So let's say the kid scores in sixth grade, he's in the 60th percentile in math. And then in seventh grade, he's in the 65th percentile. So there's 5% growth. Is that any growth is considered like growth, or is there like if you grow 10%, it's more? And then do you aggregate it across the school for every student? So is it an average of all of the, so let's say this person went from 60 to 55, but this one went from 60 to 75. Is it an aggregate that
So you're like
I'm sorry.
everybody on Cassie's team, the executive team always is like, how do we understand MGP? This is so complicated. Because what I think many of us think about when we hear the word percentile is an achievement percentile.
Mhm.
How are you achieving? This is actually a growth percentile. So how are you growing relative to your peers? And so if you were at the 60th percentile, Kate doesn't actually even do percentiles for achievement, and getting to 65, it's not actually like a growth of 5.
Because it depends how much everyone else grew. But let's say, for example, every single student in our school grew the quote average amount, right? They grew the same as the average student across the city. Then our median growth would be 50, right? They grew 50th percentile, 50 of 100, the average amount that students across the city grew. That means we would end up getting half of the points on the framework for growth that we could earn. The range is from 30 to 70. If our students only grow like at the 30th percentile, so 7 out of 10 students in the city grew more than our average student, we get no points. If they grow at the 70th percentile, that means 7 out of 10 students in the city grew less than our average student, and we get all the points. And likely we'll be somewhere in between. But it sort of depends how our average students grew compared to the average students across the city.
To your point, Terry, it is actually comparative. Right? That's not super clear to people, but it is actually, we're kind of betting that we're gonna be able to keep growing faster than other schools.
And at-risk kids, so this is saying we are
Specifically
gonna grow
at-risk.
at-risk students.
Because they
The
are
students across the
they're
city
at-risk.
who are qualified as at-risk.
Is this
We're
already
gonna
accurate?
grow.
Yes.
Yes, and we're gonna grow at-risk kids better than everyone
I
else
see,
in
I see.
sixth through eighth grades in literacy, which we've shown we are.
In the minutes, I apparently had the similar question again. But I think Randy, you answered it. If everybody in the city, if all our students were 100% last year and 100% this year,
That'd be a good problem to have.
well, it's with zero growth, in other words. But that's not the way it's measured. You said it's against the quality picture. So even though we stayed in fact, every student stayed exactly at the same level, we would knock it out of the park. According to what you're saying.
So long as our students are learning year over year, and as Cassie said, history is a guide, particularly with at-risk students. That's why the numbers on this page are so high, right? For our prior year scores, is that we are, with our at-risk students, growing them more than other schools around the city.
I like that, it's on growth versus achievement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I'd say, you know, like 20 years ago, this was so much more sophisticated back in PCSB. It's become so much more sophisticated. And it was really tricky. Like more sophisticated, so it's not capable. It actually means something. That's really good. But I mean, more sophisticated, it's way complicated, and you don't never really understand it unless you dive in. So you can't market it in any way that's detailed. You can just say the result.
Level 1.
Or level 1.
Yeah.
Or at-risk students at a higher rate than others.
Yeah.
Very good to grow points from it, but level 1 to 24. So
Yeah, I mean, if you look at this in a paragraph, how it's measured, I mean, if this board's gonna vote on it, and so that somebody's clear to this board, if nobody else, then I think you take my support.
And just to double down on what Hillary said, we are utilizing the measures that are already in Aspire, right? So it's not actually going to be DC Prep's definition that we pull out of thin air of growth. It's going to be the vetted one by PCSB, which is part of what allows us to compare against other schools.
It is lower risk because then it won't change. I mean, we don't want to. That used to happen all the time. It was like, you know, when we first wrote our charter, it was like it's measured, not very. And then it was like how to measure that. Then they like asked you 2 years later, they decide to measure it. And when you disagree, and then there's no process. So, this is improvement, even though
yes, there's a very defined process that we will write out all of the rules for this rule.
And what's nice to hear in context, you know, how things are. Well, the The wider system is growing as well.
I know you all did not choose this based on like enrollment, based on like recruitment, but I really am excited about the 100% algebra enrollment one in particular, because what is on your report will be, what parents can see. And that's not a commonly known fact. Like, I feel like there's some schools that like have that reputation, like basis or something, really rigorous, but that's not a well-known fact. I didn't actually know that. And so when parents see the report, they will see that particular data point that isn't. So I think that it is, inadvertently going to be a good marketing.
Can you define at risk again?
Yeah, so it's students who receive TANF, SNAP, are homeless or get Medicaid.
The term is still at
Yes,
risk.
foster care.
I thought it was changed.
Yeah, they've started to use the term, so OSSI still uses at risk, the PCSB is using economically disadvantaged. The difference is at risk includes students who are behind in earning credits for high school, and economically disadvantaged does not. We don't serve a high school, so they're effectively the same definition.
Thank you.
And so the only question I have about the enrollment, are we sure we're going to always get like 100%? Or is there going to be some kid that's in 7th grade that we say, well, they're at risk, but they probably are not ready for it?
For algebra?
Yeah.
No, we offer it for all 8th graders, and we have an intensified algebra program. The way it works is as you're teaching the 8th graders, it has corollary remedial 6th and 7th grade math skills. So if we receive a student that's new to us in the 6th grade that may have bigger academic gaps, our algebra curriculum, actually we're using one that allows us to remediate skills in a just-in-time approach, which means like I'm teaching you today's algebra objective, and then I'm spending 20 minutes teaching you the sub-objectives that you need to know in order to do tomorrow's lesson. So all of our students, we made this shift 5 years ago. We used to level our 8th graders. We would basically, at the end of 7th grade, track our students, and we had some doing algebra, and we made a choice to move towards algebra for all because we wanted all of our kids to have the opportunity to have calculus by 12th grade in order to go to college. If you don't take algebra in 8th grade, you don't have that opportunity. So it doesn't mean we do have 9th graders that have to retake algebra depending on their high school, because they'll get there and the high school may have its own entrance test, or the student might choose that, or the high school may make everyone retake it. But we wanted all of our kids to have the opportunity to have calculus by 12. And so what we had to do is we had to backwards map to kindergarten to make sure we could get every 8th grader ready. So we shifted our curriculum to be like April to April. And then in May and June, we started teaching the next grade level standards so that all of our kids are ready.
Are the kids on, I'm sure I guess the answer is yes, but it seems like some kids that are on IEPs would not be ready for algebra in 8th grade.
We are preparing them as best as we absolutely can. We're preparing all kids to take it, and we don't offer we don't have another 8th grade math course. And we aren't going to say, and we're not staffed to, and we won't be. That would require a entire other teacher at 3 middle schools.
Yeah.
It's like a regular staff.
I know a couple of kids.
All right, I'm gonna suggest we keep moving.
So let me ask the question. So are we prepared to vote on this, or do you guys want to see some more explanation about the growth, or we can vote with the understanding that we're going to get some more information on the breakdown of the growth? I think Terry was asking, some others asking for just a paragraph or just a better explanation. But are we prepared to vote, or do the board want to wait?
Yes, we do need a board vote.
Yeah.
And what I would ask is, if the primary focus is, we want to make sure that the board deeply understands like how the framework works, we can absolutely come back and share more information. I would strongly propose that you feel comfortable with us doing this. I think we've identified some very good metrics, and I want to use the metrics that we've proposed, or, you know, over on the sides, it outlines some of the other metrics that we've considered. I would like the board's approval to go to PCSD and work with them to negotiate like which metrics we will finalize. Recognizing that we're working, our first priority is, you know, re-enrollment, for middle school, Algebra 1 enrollment, CAPE growth for at-risk students in 6th through 8th, or CAPE growth in math for 6th through 8th grades, depending on, you know, what feedback we get from them. If we can't use one of those for some reason, then our next best option would be re-enrollment in our school for at-risk students. And so that's our proposal. Okay, so those are like our top metrics that we're gonna go and negotiate with PCSD on, assuming the board approves that, and then we will come back and share more information about exactly how these are calculated and how we'll
The final vote after the negotiations.
We need to be able to tell the PCSD that we have your approval to
Negotiate.
negotiate these.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's, I propose.
All right, do we have a second?
Sure.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Middle campus. Middle schools.
Yep, so essentially, this is what we voted on, that Laura and the team are gonna go negotiate on what's in the box.
And next, I want to do the same thing, but faster. I say this with loud in here, but we've got other things we gotta work through tonight. For elementary campuses, Hillary, can you talk us through elementaries?
Yes, there's a little bit more limited scope of options for elementary because our third graders only take CAPE, so there's no growth available to select from there for CAPE. We also don't want to hedge on CAPE achievement because it's a cohort of students, right? That third grade class can vary substantially year to year. So we don't want to hedge on just one grade level of students. We have landed on doing 0.3 allocations, so choosing things that are already in the framework that we think are mission aligned, are already targeted to the work our schools are deeply focused on doing. Here we landed on NWDA math growth. That's for our kindergarten to 2nd grade students. It's that same confusing metric of growth percentile. This is a stronger area from the options we had. Nothing across the elementary school that was on the table was as reliably strong as our middle school choices. We also landed on re-enrollment. We know that, and all of these are correct, we know re-enrollment is key to us being able to build success with students year in and year out. The longer we have them, the more academic impact we have, the more teachers can engage with families. It's also related to the work of having stable full enrollment at our campuses. And so based on both historical data and then the energy we are putting in our campuses, focused with teachers and leaders, we landed on re-enrollment for at-risk students compared to at-risk students across the city, so keeping more of them, and then NWEA growth for at-risk students that relative to charter students across the city.
What is it?
Northwest Association of Education Progress. It's an assessment of standardized computer-based assessment.
So we have to pick 2 of the 4.
Yeah, the 4 that are listed here in the chart are what we kind of deeply dove into after some initial negotiations with PCSD that took some things we were hopeful for off the table, like classroom observations in early childhood. We thought that could be a great place to focus because our questions there are really strong. They already allocated bonus points in their framework to it, so said we couldn't put even more points on top of it. Same thing, we looked at early childhood assessment results on standardized tests we give, but nobody else really gives. And the bar to start earning points was just very high and did not seem like a reliable measure over time. When we got into the nitty-gritty, so Emily's point of the historical, like it wasn't always well-defined, now it is well-defined, and that well-defined definition would not have led to outcomes that would have helped us achieve that level.
And so this offers us simple, clear measures, keeps us focused on things we already have to focus on. It's already part of the framework. And so it's just like doubling down on things that we believe are really important. Re-enrollment and whether students are growing as applications.
What is the enrollment number that you are proposing?
So re-enrollment will be the rate of students who are at-risk students who come back year over year, so from one fall to the following fall.
Understood.
And based on the PCSB's access to charter-wide data, they set a minimum to get points and a maximum where you get all of them. Looking back at our data historically, we would have gotten across our campuses 87%, 77%, 75% of the points. So relatively strong.
Oh, I thought that these were the points.
So it's a percent of
I
points
missed the
per, yeah.
top of this. Thank you. So you're closing something with EEC only 2 of our campuses, 77% or 5%.
Correct, but the threshold to get in level 1 is having 75% of the points across the whole framework. So that actually does, on a single line item metric, position us in that level 1 category, even though we're not maximizing points. Unfortunately, there weren't any reliable indicators where we get all of the points. And really, the reason the PCSB has sort of a range where you can earn points is it's not all or nothing, right? They don't, I think, believe that any school can maximize every single category across the board. And so these are stronger options for us and already focused on what we're doing.
If Muslim Trump dramatically cut back the number of employees working down, I'm sure they'll allow us to not get below these numbers. In other words, there is a risk that a lot of people are going to have to leave Washington, D.C.
Yes, the great thing, well, not great thing, but re-enrollment rate actually excludes students who leave the District of Columbia because they're not eligible to re-enroll. So it's of the students who remain inside the District of Columbia, how many come back to our schools. And so that is great that it excludes, right, because there are population shifts like that that could cause an exodus.
So I think that one's an easy one, because like we're already positioned pretty good there. So I don't think we want to discuss that one anymore. If I were trying to win and playing the odds, why wouldn't I choose chronic absenteeism rate? Because it's a little, like if I average those out, it's still a little bit higher than that one. Or do we just really care about using math? Or do we care about, I don't want to say cooking the books, but making ourselves look a little better?
I think there is a strong argument to choose chronic absenteeism. We consider all of these were kind of like our final options. I think that it is nice to be able, one, we feel proud of the work that we do academically, and given our mission, it also just felt strange not to try and push for like an academic measure. So that's how we ended up here. We also think, when you look at the consistency, there's we think that we can get to the right place with our outcomes.
Part of our internal discussion about this was around NWEA, the test itself, and how we've given it for a long time, but hasn't really been something we've paid that much attention to. Not because it's not valid, but because it's just hard to teach to and teach from. Whereas now we're going to be held accountable to it, whether we pick it here or not. It's the largest share of Aspire for elementary. So we're paying a lot of attention to it. And that was part of our thinking around, like, if this is our scores when we weren't paying that much attention to it, we feel like we do have room to grow here and the ability to see some growth in these numbers. Whereas we've always paid attention to absenteeism. Maybe that feels like there's a little bit less room to grow.
What's in the box?
Yes.
It's hard to negotiate.
Do we have a second to Terry's motion? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion carries, so you're clear to negotiate with what's in the box.
Thank you,
Hillary.
Thanks, Hillary.
I think the next thing on the agenda is over to you, Emily.
I think I've got a quick one, hopefully a quick one.
Oh, okay.
Before we jump over.
Oh,
to-
I'm sorry.
That's all right. We have one item for voting for the board related to facilities, and then what it will be, I hope, a very, very brief update on our construction. So the facilities item for voting is that, as you all know, we're currently constructing the new home for our Anacostia Elementary campus. They're moving from B Street to join Anacostia Middle at the Wilkinson Building. Construction's on track, on time, on budget, so all good on the construction. But there is one governance-related item we need to do, which is vote to authorize the movement of that school from its current location at B Street to its new location at Wilkinson. The PCSB will also take a vote on this, but as a DC Prep board, they want to see that vote of this board first
And when is it happening? Is
for
it-
the coming school year. So
Okay.
the building will be done in August, and students will be in there for the end of August, beginning of September.
Do I have a second for Terry's motion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried.
Thank you, everyone. And then I just want to connect backwards and preview forwards that I wasn't here, but you all were in this facility last year at this time. We talked about the condition of this facility, the need to invest and renovate a space for Edgewood Elementary. The Finance and Real Estate Committee has been spending time looking at options and opportunities. We are hopeful that we may have a potential path forward with building that's across the street that Washington Latin is currently in, but we're currently in the process of pressure testing whether that is a realistic and feasible option for both the program and the finances related to this campus. So I'm just giving you that very brief update and preview that we will come back to the board when we have done more pressure testing, when we are clear on the path forward.
All right, let's keep moving.
Thank you. Laura's cracking the whip.
Yes.
Emily, what do you?
So we got on, we have actually 15 board members, and we should have right around there, and we have to have also an odd number of board members who can Dicey vote. So with Ella leaving the board after such a long, wonderful service for us, we would open, and the governance committee has been for a while about moving on and have looked at a number of candidates over the years. And there's a candidate who we talked about for a while, who's been involved in scrap for a couple of years, and he's involved in the good about. And we decided that is interested, and so we proposing the intent formally to you. I'll hand it over to Laura to say a little more about it, but basically, his background in business and real estate, we felt like right now actually a really good place in terms of the balance of skills, experience, but then we felt a little weaker on the kind of business leadership and financial real estate side. So we were interested in bringing him in, add a little bit of him to our group, and we just got to be a learning person and very excited about this project. Laura can see more on that.
John Bradley has been part of the Finance and Real Estate Committee for more than a year. He's always like very well prepared, very thoughtful, very thorough, and he has like the time and excitement about being more involved in this program, which is terrific. And so we've been offer a lot as a member of the board.
So,
Talk about his charter experience.
He was involved with charters in Arizona, which is where he lived before he retired. He made his wife this year.
He came to the fundraiser last year too, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he's come to a number of events from us. He also came to our interview day.
Graduation.
He's taken every opportunity that we've like extended to like come and try to be part of our community. He has a lot of interest in just like contributing.
Okay. Um,
Motion.
all in favor? Any opposed? Mr. Bradley is a member of the board. Motion carries. Awesome.
How many parent trustees? We have three.
With 31 from each campus.
Is that sort of the?
We need to have 2 by law, and we made a decision 5 years ago, because we've been more 7, that it made a lot of sense to have one person for each cluster, just to make sure that we didn't have to get the parent votes from each.
Yeah, no,
So that's fine, but it's
I think-
by law too.
I think we should be, to the extent we can get more, I think that would be great.
In the dark ages, in the beginning of BC Prep, I would have time on the board, so we can keep an eye on numbers. Are we on the board today? Are we always an odd number?
I got a waiver to allow us to be not out of this meeting. With the commitment that we're working on it, so.
Thank you.
Just don't have any tie votes tonight. On one side or the other.
All right, so that concludes the public session of our meeting tonight. So did I have a motion for the closed session? Second? All in favor? All right, any opposed? All right, we're in closed session. So, yeah, come back for dinner. Yes. Just go hang out. Eat.